one of my pet peeves in the Tataria mud floods. Whole bunch of people that listen to that. See, I started listening to Autodidactic 2019, but prior to that, and he was talking about mud floods. He didn't know any more than that. He was just, I think I started listening to him right when he, maybe even the same month or two that he started his channel. But up until that point, I was already making videos on this anomalies that I was finding since 2017 and making. I had dozens and dozens. I think by the time that I had like 400 videos on my channel, Supernatural Life, and at that time my channel got taken down, and then I've got my second channel, but like 2020 my channel got taken down. I just was talking about too much of this stuff too early. But one of the things that really kind of bugs me, the way that I walked away from this research and not making videos recently. You know, I've been going more political, but this is my main, this is the one I'm writing my book on that I've been writing for quite some time, and just trying to get all of the information together. And that is about what happened here in America, and the orphan trains and the orphanages and the cloning that you found in the World Trade Fairs and different things that you found. That was all through the 1800s, showing off that magnificent society. Tataria, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and take a look at some of the Tataria mud flood research. But there is evidence that there was a magnificent kingdom. I believe it was the 1,000-year reign of Jesus, because it's stamped all over the place. It was stamped in the year of our Lord on every piece of paper, on every building. It was in the year of Jesus, in the year of our Lord. And then there is even over here in Canada, going further north on old maps. It's in French. I'm not sure, but it is again the land of Jesus. So like we got a lot of stuff that was going on that shows that there was a whole lot more than the Bible, or what people think, that it's all just from the Middle East. No, it's spread out. With the kingdom came. We're in the little bit of Satan season, the time where everybody is fooled, basically. So anyways, I'm just kind of telling you where I've looked and what I've been looking at. And a lot of the stuff that people are looking at today may have come from one of those 400 videos that I was making in the beginning about all these weird things that we're looking at. I put down a number, not a whole lot, but my best that I really liked on my new channel, but it never picked up traction, and that's fine. But a lot of what you guys are looking at, but you're missing some of the stuff, and people are deceiving you, I believe, or they're being deceived, because they're still thinking America was exactly, they still try to put in the framework that the Native Indians were here and they were the first people here. And then we came and built it up, and they're really having a hard time at that. I'm telling you, if you go by Antonio Flamenco's work, he shows that the Native people were an invading force that came in at the time after a destruction that happened to America all over worldwide. But they were here, and that's the way they've always used it. These rulers, they've always used other people to come in. Like right now, just think about the Indian. What do they call the East Indian Company? You know, that was a big one that went around and did a lot of the same thing. Whereas the rulers of one people would use people of another to go and do their dirty work, whatever. You know, that's kind of, they've done that forever. Anyways, so that is what he says happened. And they are the leftovers from the invaders to come and destabilize the rest of the kingdom that was here, because it's Satan's little season. I know that sounds really crazy, but the Bible does talk about Satan's little season, and it talks about the 1,000-year reign. He said that he was coming back, and some of you alive today is going to see the kingdom. And there's people that believe that there's people walking around that are 2,000 years old. I rather believe that he was actually speaking what he said, and the kingdom came, because we have evidence of it, physical evidence of it in the year of our Lord all over the place. But anyways, what we see when we're looking at that is at the same time, most people don't know those orphan trains and orphanages and those state fairs and all that displaying, showing cloning ability. Well, that was what was left over from that society, right? It was what was left over from that society, but the orphanages were full of the people that were here, the native people that were here. And the insane asylums were their parents that, for whatever happened, they didn't want to go along with the new regime, the new history that was being told to them. And many of them were just killed. And then what you're not taking into account, this is what the biggest thing to real clue as to how long people that look like me were here on this continent, is you got to go back to which people are not doing. They're just not going in. They're seeing the tip of the spear, but they're not seeing the full picture. They're not going back to the white tribes, going back to the chronicles of the explorers in the beginning of their description of many people that look like Irish Scottish people, and how they believe that maybe this was when the Dutch came in. Well, we also know that there was the Vikings, like Trump just did this about the Vikings coming in, what was that, 1100, something along that line. So over 1,000 years, the Vikings and put in settlements, or the Dutch, and that. So there were a lot of more people, and there was a kingdom here, I'm just saying. There was a society here, and that's where all the buildings, it's not just the short time that they say that America and how we stole the land and all that. It's nothing like that. This America has been going for we don't know how far back. The same people have been living here and had this amazing kingdom at least 1,000 years or two, close to, longer, a long time since Jesus' time in the year of the Lord. Okay, so this is what they're missing about this. They're missing the kingdom. They're missing, and they're not seeing all of the statues. And there's even a researcher that's saying, oh, the white people, when they came and invaded and took over everything and stole everything, scraped off all the pictures and put their pictures on, like everything and all the statues and everything. But when we're looking at the paintings and the pictures from that time, from like the early 1800s, they say that, we've got pictures that are like 5D in 1820, like showing the tech, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. It's crazy. It's crazy because they lost the technology after a while. But we've got that, and it shows all the statues and that. They're all white people. I'm just saying, like, that society was full of that. Well, full here in America. That's what the research shows. And they're also not taking into, so we got the white native tribes that they had, and then they're not taking into all of the encampments that they called hobo encampments. Like I did this, it's a chapter, I'm just doing a whole chapter on the hobos of America, the hobo encampments that lived in, some of them lived in structures, some of them lived in makeshift, but they called them hobos instead of calling them the native Indians because they were white. But when they saw and they wrote down for the native Indians, they called them Indians or savages or whatever it was. They called them distinguish between the two. But in the writings in that time period, they called them hobos, displaced people. But they were all over. There was encampments all over. They were littered all over this land, the original inhabitants. And these are all the things that they're not taking into account. Now they're thinking, well, all the white people, I've seen people make videos saying all the white people are clones, and they made them, and they're the replacement, and they're not real people, and they don't have souls. We can clone right now, right? Well, I'm just telling you, these abilities were still around at that time, and they were showing it. But the majority of the people were in orphanages, orphan trains, hobo camps, insane asylums. That's where you're going to find where the people were that were displaced on this land. So anyways, I'm running out of time. If you want to hear more about my research that I've been doing for almost a decade on this, just let me know.